What do you do if you're dating a guy for 11 years and his mother absolutely hates you? You've tried breaking up with him numerous times, but you just can't seem to let him go, and you really love him. But she is toxic. Well, in my client's case, she called me and scheduled an appointment to talk to her higher self to get some answers. So, this is a really cool story that involves a past life and talking to my client's higher self. So, hold on and let me start at the beginning. Before I lead my clients in channeling their higher self, we look at a past life that's relevant to their current life. This client comes from a completely different religion and culture, and she saw herself in a fairly similar culture in a past life, which she said at the end really surprised her. She was certain for her past life she was going to see an alien life, but that's not what happened. When I took my client to a past life, she was a 15 or 16-year-old girl and described herself as feeling really worried because her parents had arranged a marriage for her with a young man that she had never met. She was incredibly close and bonded with her family and was devastated at the thought of leaving her large extended family. Because in that culture, the female leaves and goes and lives with the husband and his family. Her worries finally eased somewhat when she was at the engagement ceremony and saw he was pretty handsome and she kind of liked him. But she was still really sad about leaving her family. Having children was a big thing in that culture, and she was expected to produce children right away, but it took her 3 years to get pregnant. And during those 3 years, her mother in law kept berating her and calling her all kinds of names and trying to encourage her son to go take a second wife so that he could have children. He didn't, and she finally ended up getting pregnant. The rest of their life was pretty uneventful and very happy, very much filled with love, and she really enjoyed that life. After looking at the past life, we started having her channel her higher self. One of the questions later in the session was, does she have any trapped anger anywhere in her body? And her higher self said yes, and it's towards her boyfriend's mother. Again, this is the woman that treats her terribly. Before the session, my client described this woman as not wanting to let go of her son, like it was a competition between her, the mother, and my client, the girlfriend. And when her boyfriend wasn't around, his mother was vicious. But in front of him, she put on a nice, happy face. Her higher self said the mother in law is toxic to her. She's afraid of losing her son. She's very possessive and attached in an odd sort of way. It's almost like she looks to her son to be her husband. I asked if this mother son duo had been a husband and wife in a past life, and her higher self said no. I asked if my client should leave this boyfriend, and her higher self said no, they have a soul contract to be together. On a physical level, my client was holding the anger and trauma from this woman in her armpit area, so her higher self worked to remove that. And I asked, okay, is that going to change the situation now? And her higher self said, no, it's not going to change until she learns some more lessons. And the only way my client is going to learn these lessons is by continuing in this relationship and dealing with this boyfriend's mother. Her higher self said she needs to learn not to judge. She needs to learn to be more understanding, even of toxic people. And my client's higher self said that she feels like she is superior to this boyfriend's mother and that she judges other people for how they are. She judges other people because she feels like she grew up in such a healthy home environment. And here's the big one. My client and this boyfriend's mother have karma that they're working out from a previous life, the two of them. And I'm going to read from my notes. This is what my client's higher self said. I said, what can she do to balance this karma? And her higher self said, in this lifetime, she has to clear it by being this man's wife. There is some unfinished business from a past life. She was supposed to marry him. She hurt him and didn't marry him. She didn't go through with it. She hurt him. He unconditionally loved her in that past life, too. The person she did end up marrying in that past life loved her, but it was not unconditional. And she carries baggage from that. And if that wasn't enough karma, there's even more. In a past life, my client and her boyfriend's mother were sisters. My client ended up marrying a man that this sister wanted. And then she also treated that sister who didn't get the man mean intentionally and unintentionally. In that past life, my client's dad spoiled her with lots of love and didn't give the same kind of love to the sister. So there was a lot of jealousy and anger and lots of feelings of probably betrayal. So, what can my client do to balance the karma in this lifetime? I asked. Her higher self said she needs to learn how to give her boyfriend's mother unconditional love. Unconditional love to someone she never thought about giving unconditional love to. Since she treated her sister in that past life terribly, the agreement was she was going to receive that kind of treatment in this lifetime. And the plan is for my client to give this woman so much unconditional love that there's no need for the two of them to reincarnate and work out any further karma. So I said, so my client needs to really dig deep and find that unconditional love for this woman, doesn't she? And her higher self said, yes. And I share this story because I see scenarios like this all the time in my sessions. And while this is not the case every single time, it happens often where someone you don't get along with, or they don't get along with you, you don't like each other for some reason that you're not even really clear about, it stems from something that happened in a different lifetime. And you've agreed to come back and work it out with this soul to get it resolved once and for all. Because if you don't get it resolved in this lifetime, you'll probably do it in another one. So the obvious solution to this is just walk in love. Even when people are toxic, it doesn't mean you have to be a doormat for them. It doesn't mean you have to tolerate bad behavior, but it does mean you should walk in unconditional love for them and understanding, trying to see things from their point of view. Again, you don't have to be a doormat. You can set healthy boundaries with them. But setting healthy boundaries has nothing to do with whether or not you are loving to them. It has nothing to do with your heart towards them. And that is the key, the heart. How do you feel about that person in your heart? Do you forgive them, or do you hold anger and resentment and bitterness towards them? Because if you do, those are the things that anchor us, that tie us to other people where we reincarnate with them again and maybe again to work those things out, to learn how to overcome them, to learn how to walk in love, to learn how to be what we truly are, which is love. So maybe you've got people in your life that you don't necessarily get along with, or maybe you've had people like that in the past and you just really don't know unless you get in touch with your higher self like this and uncover the whole backstory. But regardless, the result, the answer is always the same. Again, it's walking in love. It's checking your heart for the feelings you have towards everyone else. And if you're walking in judgment, or if you're walking in forgiveness, if you're walking in acceptance, because this earth journey, it's all about learning how to return to love.